It was a cold, misty evening when I found myself walking down a road I never intended to take. The headlights of passing cars barely cut through the dense fog, and the hum of engines blended into the eerie silence of the night. This road held a history, one deeply intertwined with my own. A history I had tried to bury, but that now threatened to resurface. A few years ago, in my early 20s, I was in a horrific car accident. A drunk truck driver plowed into my car, shattering not only my bones, but also my trust in those closest to me. I had been driving to surprise my sister, who was in labor at the hospital. It was supposed to be a joyous occasion. Instead, it became the darkest chapter of my life. My arm was broken, and learning to walk again was an uphill battle. The scars, both physical and emotional, lingered long after the crash. What hurt more than the accident itself was the realization that my family, who I thought would be my anchor during this storm, was nowhere to be found. My parents and sister, preoccupied with the birth of my niece, never came to see me. Not even days after the baby was born. The hospital room was cold, sterile, and lonely, save for the presence of a friend who stayed by my side. Every day, I would ask the hospital staff if my parents had called, only to be met with silence. When I finally managed to reach them, their indifference cut deeper than any physical pain I had endured. "We were busy with your sister," they said, as though that justified everything. They even went as far as to blame me for the accident, calling me irresponsible for driving late at night. My attempts to explain my intentions fell on deaf ears. It was then that I realized the depth of the favoritism that had always defined our family dynamics. My sister, the golden child, could do no wrong. I, on the other hand, was the reliable one, the strong one, expected to fend for myself. The accident changed my life in more ways than one. My friends became my family, taking turns visiting me, bringing me books and encouragement. Their support was the only reason I pushed through the grueling months of rehabilitation. Mary, a close friend, visited daily, often saying, "If your parents won't come, I'll be your family instead." Her words were a balm to my aching heart. My colleagues, too, showed a kindness that my own blood relations had denied me, often stopping by to check on me and keep me connected to the world outside those hospital walls. But even as I recovered physically, the emotional wounds deepened. My parents never visited, not even once. They didn't ask about my condition or offer any help. Yet I continued to send them money every month, a habit ingrained from years of being the dutiful daughter. Perhaps deep down, I hoped this act of responsibility would bridge the growing chasm between us. It didn't. 3 years passed, and my relationship with my family remained fractured. My parents had never acknowledged their neglect, and I had learned to cope without their presence. That is, until one fateful dinner party changed everything. My parents, celebrating my sister's promotion, decided to share their version of the events surrounding my accident. Their story painted me as the villain, an unforgiving daughter who had severed ties over a misunderstanding. The truth was distorted beyond recognition. They claimed they hadn't known about the accident until days later, and that they had tried to contact me repeatedly, only to be met with my supposed hostility. When my aunt called me after the party, her voice trembling with disbelief, I finally broke my silence. I told her everything, how my parents had ignored the emergency responders' calls, how they had prioritized my sister over my life-threatening injuries, and how they had blamed me for the crash. Her shock mirrored the emotions I had buried for years. "I can't believe they've been telling such horrible lies," she said. Her words brought a flood of emotions I thought I had long suppressed. Looking back, the signs of favoritism had always been there. As a child, I was the responsible one, the achiever, but my accomplishments were never celebrated the way my sisters were. When I won a state science competition, all I got was a quick "congratulations." Yet, when my sister won a choir competition, we took a family trip to Napa Valley. At dinner, the menu was always tailored to her tastes, and I was expected to eat whatever was served without complaint. "You're the stronger one," my parents would say, as if strength justified neglect. Even as an adult, the disparity continued. While I worked tirelessly to build a career in IT, becoming a project manager at 28, my sister, who had dropped out of college, was praised for finding her own path. When my father fell ill and retired early, I stepped up, sending money home to support my family. But no matter how much I gave, it was never enough. My contributions funded my sister's wedding, her home down payment, and even renovations to my parents' house. Yet, on the day of her wedding, not a single word of gratitude was directed toward me. Instead, I watched from the sidelines as my family basked in the glow of her achievements. The accident was a wake-up call, forcing me to confront the truth I had been avoiding for years. My family didn't see me as an individual with needs and feelings. To them, I was a resource, a safety net for my sister's dreams. When I finally stopped the financial transfers, the fallout was immediate. Angry messages flooded my phone, accusing me of abandoning my family. But as their tones softened, their apologies felt hollow, driven more by financial desperation than genuine remorse. My decision to cut ties wasn't easy, but it was necessary. For the first time, I began to live for myself. I enrolled in a photography class, a dream I had long postponed. My instructor, Mr. Smith, praised my work, saying, "Your photographs capture the subtleties of life." His words gave me a confidence I hadn't felt in years. I formed new friendships, found a supportive community, and even began to rediscover the joy of simple pleasures like hosting home parties and exploring the world through my camera lens. Meanwhile, my parents' lives took a drastic turn. Without my financial support, they could no longer maintain their lavish lifestyle. They sold their house and moved into a modest apartment, far from the grandeur they once enjoyed. My sister's marriage, too, began to crumble under the weight of financial strain. Relatives who had once praised them now criticized their actions, exposing the cracks in the facade they had worked so hard to maintain. The repercussions of their choices were unavoidable. At a family meeting, my uncle, who had always been an observer, finally spoke out. "After exploiting your eldest daughter for so many years, how can you say anything now?" he said, his words cutting through the room like a knife. My parents, once the center of attention, now sat in silence, unable to defend themselves. Their fall from grace was as inevitable as it was tragic. Though I occasionally feel a pang of guilt, I know I made the right choice. For the first time, I am living a life free from the shadows of their expectations. My days are filled with creativity, connection, and genuine joy. The walls of my new condominium, adorned with my photographs, reflect a life reclaimed. And while I wish things had been different, I am finally at peace, knowing that I have chosen myself. In the end, the accident was both a tragedy and a turning point. It forced me to confront the harsh realities of my family's dynamics and gave me the strength to break free. Perhaps they will someday realize the weight of their actions, but I can no longer carry that burden. This is my story, one of pain, resilience, and ultimately, freedom.